Hello and welcome to Psych Chat here at Men's Radio Station. I'm Relojo-howell, founder of Psych Rich. I love talking to people and learning about their stories. So in each episode of Psych Chat, I'll be talking to fascinating people within psychology, mental health, and well-being. Join me here at Men's Radio Station every week and let's have a Psych Chat. Hello, I'm Relojo-howell and you're listening to Psych Chat here at Men's Radio Station. This is, of course, the show where I talk to fascinating people about anything psychology, mental health, and well-being. Well, we will be talking about an interesting topic today. It's all about parenting and helping children reach their full potential. So, if you're an expecting parent or you already have children, this is the episode for you, and I promise you will gain a lot from this episode. Now, just to give you a bit of a background on this topic, did you know that according to UNICEF, the first 1,000 days of life, that's the time spanning roughly between conception and the baby's second birthday, that period is an opportunity when the foundations of optimum health, growth, and neurodevelopment across the lifespan are established. There's nothing more I can add to that. I'm happily married, but I'm child-free, so my knowledge in this area is rather limited. Thankfully, I have a child development expert here who is also the founder of the company called Oliiki. She traveled all the way from Hertfordshire. Clare Stead, thank you for coming here at Men's Radio Station.
Thanks so much for having me here. I'm really excited to be here.
Okay. Now, Claire, could you just tell us more about yourself? Tell us who you are, where you're from. Give us a quick snapshot of your trajectory in life on how you ended up doing what you're doing.
So I'm a primary school teacher by training. I'm a mum of three. And I started out teaching in class and only ever wanted to do that. But then when I had my children, it was teaching doesn't necessarily fit as well with working part-time. So then I found myself literally falling into becoming an education researcher. And I had a really cool job, worked with the top 5% of schools in England and Wales looking for best practice and rolling that best practice out across all the other schools in the country, advising on curriculum development and that sort of thing. It was really a fabulous job. And then my husband announced that we were moving to Zambia, which was not in my plan, but it was in his. And while on a plane, I met a man who wanted to change the way education took place in Africa, and he told me what he was going to do, and I said, okay, that's not what I'd do. And he said, oh, what would you do? So I told him, and he said, oh, come and help me do it. So we built an app that put the whole of primary education on a tablet for African kids to get international standard education in their own language. So we voiced and translated into 9 languages. And now that's rolling out across Africa. But while I was doing that and while I was teaching in the classroom, I kept finding a group of children who couldn't access the learning, even though it was the learning that the governments said were the level that the children should be at. And then I saw the research on the first 1,000 days of life and the brain development that's happening at that period of time. And I realised that actually I was in the wrong place. If I wanted to make an impact, I needed to go to the parents, and I needed to help parents understand the importance of their role in that time.
So it's actually your trip to Zambia that actually get you interested about child development, or have you always been interested with child development being a mum of 3?
I've always been interested in child development. As a teacher, that's obviously deeply embedded in my training. And for me, the children who have been most exciting and interesting are the children who arrive at school and just can't access that curriculum. And there's no reason why, because they're not special needs, but maybe they're fidgety, maybe they haven't got the skills to sit there and listen or engage themselves or finish a task. And those are the children that I've always found that I want to work with and turn it round for them.
Now, you mentioned you're actually an educational researcher, and you just developed an app called Oliiki. So what's actually your big mission?
My big mission is to ensure that children arrive at school and thrive, but also that we have confident parents who build relationships with their children that last a lifetime and are positive.
Mhm. Now, I've mentioned earlier for the introduction that this will actually benefit future parents and those who's planning to start a family. So could you just give us a few top tips for ensuring that your little ones are ready for school?
It children are built on they're born ready to learn. What we give them are experiences, and the experiences we give them lay the foundation for life. So if we give them positive experiences, we are building a foundation that will literally last a lifetime. Children who have strong positive foundations through really engaged interaction with parents, play, that children learn through play, that's their language of communication. So the play they do, the interaction, the safe relationships that they have are building their future. And the stronger and better that is at foundation level, so in those first 1,000 days, the better their life outcome will be, the more they will earn, the healthier they will be, and the more successful they will be, and the more likely they are to fulfill their life potential. So it is those first 1,000 days and the way that we communicate with our babies, the way we interact, the way that we play, that will set their lifetime trajectory.
There's actually a psychological concept that reminds me of what you just said. It's called Tabula Rasa. Basically, it means that children are actually blank slates of paper. So I think it's really important that when you fill them in for the first 1,000 years of life is actually going to nurture and help them when they become adults. Now, just a follow-up. So actually, what activities I just want to follow up on your personal story. So before Oliiki, what actually activities did you have with your children?
So as a mum, I was a mum I've been desperate to be a mum since I was 12. I know, one of those sad ones. I wanted to be a teacher from the age of 5. So, yeah, I'm really sad. I love kids. I think they're really fun. And as a mum, I was meant to find it really easy because I should have done. But actually, I found being a mum very lonely. I found it very isolating, very trapping. I was trapped in the house a lot. And because babies sleep a shed load and you have to be somewhere where they can sleep, which means that by nature you are at home a lot. So I found that quite tricky. And so and also I found being tired very hard to keep coming up with new activities. But I'm a teacher, so I found myself doing flashcards with my baby and teaching them phonics and numbers and all that sort of jazz. Now, I don't recommend that to any parent.
What age did you start showing them flashcards?
I think probably 3 days.
3 days? And can they actually see the flashcards?
No.
Yeah. But
No.
I think it's just the teacher side of you that's trying to,
I didn't know what else to do.
Yeah.
I was doing what I did in the classroom. And people say, you're a teacher, you're a natural mum, you should know what to do. And I didn't. I'd never done it before. And being a parent is such a learning curve in so many ways. And it came as a big surprise that I didn't know what to do. And that's another reason why I built Oliiki, because it's just so hard to fill the hours that you have with this tiny weeny baby, and it all seems quite pointless and a bit dull. And singing Twinkle Twinkle Little Star for another time can get a little samey. But if you understand what you're doing, then it becomes much more meaningful to you as a parent and you get much more engaged in it. And I remember coming home from work once I'd gone back to work when the babies were about, the eldest was 6 months I went back, and then with the second one I went back at 5 months, and just being so tired that I couldn't think of anything to do with them at the end of a day, and just wishing somebody would tell me what to do. It was another reason why I built Oliiki. But so as a parent, my favourite activities, I just absolutely love having the babies. When they were tiny, we would do a lot of singing, we'd do a lot of reading books, spending time exploring things. But that tiny baby stage is quite tough. As a toddler, they're just hilarious, and I have so much fun with toddlers and the whole dressing up and the whole exploring and Investigating is so much fun. Cardboard boxes can be the most amazing toys. It doesn't need expensive toys when you've got your little one around.
I got interested with that. So what do you actually do with cardboard boxes?
Oh, anything you like. This way up, it might be a pirate ship. That way up, it might be a house. Turn it up the other way, you're a turtle. Do it this way, and you can be, I don't know, maybe you're going in a phone box to talk to somebody. So it can be whatever your imagination takes. And it's also the imagination of your child. So allowing your child to come up with the ideas. It could be a tent, for example.
So it's really, it's just started because you're bored and you also want to be creative in how you handle your kids. So it's really quite spectacular how you try to manage your time looking after your baby. Yes, it's trying to find meaning in the everyday stuff and trying to understand the learning that happens in everyday play that then gives you as a parent more focus and interest and makes you realise that actually what you're doing is really, really important. And this is, of course, the impetus of Oliiki. And we'll talk more about Oliiki later, but could you just... I'm quite intrigued. Why is actually Oliiki? Is it a Greek word? It sounds Greek to me.
No, it's not. It's a word that means olive in Estonian if you take the I out. And if you keep the I, to put two I's in, it means you can get the .com. So it means nothing.
It means nothing.
Ultimately, what I would like it to mean is great learning from the start. So that, by the time you've got to know what Oliiki is, you're already engaged in our learning processes.
It sounds good. It sounds babyish. So I think it will attract parents who are actually looking for an app to sort of make activity with their children fun and engaging. Now we'll leave it there. We'll talk more about that, about your Oliiki. So stay tuned here at Men's Radio Station. This is Dennis relojo-howell. We'll be back after the break.
Do you want to hang out and really know that you've been listened to? Do you want to debrief and have a laugh and not have to fall down the same hole as every other man in front of you? Then why not go to mensgroups.co.uk, download the Men's Groups ground rules, download the Men's Groups check-in round. There are loads of videos and you can just hit the ground running, growing with other men.
Join me, Carl Simons, for the Business Hour on Saturdays at 9 a.m, where I'll be interviewing some of the UK's most influential leaders to understand how they are tackling the stigma that surrounds mental health at work. That's me, Carl Simons, for the Business Hour at 9 a.m. on Saturdays here on Men's Radio.
Hi, I'm Noel McDermott, licensed psychotherapist and host of Wellbeing Wednesdays. During Wellbeing Wednesdays, I talk about all things psychotherapy and mental well-being, offering practical help and advice on issues around relationships, anxiety, depression, drugs and alcohol, whilst trying to improve your mental health and giving you an interesting stories from our guests. Join the conversation, have your voice heard, or ask for advice from one of my many specialist guests. We can try and advise you on your problems. Be part of the conversation. Come and join us every Wednesday from 9 to 10:30pm on Men's Radio Station, where men really talk.
You're listening to Men's Radio Station, the only radio station that's 100% dedicated to mental health and well-being. We're on air and broadcasting 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. In fact, we never sleep. If you want to listen on the move, please download our app. It's easy to do. www.mensradiostation.com is the website, or follow us on social media. Men's Radio Station, where men really talk.
Not ready for making tax digital? Struggling to keep up with changes? Or do you simply need a friendly and reliable face to handle your accounting needs? With over 20 years of experience, BBK Partnership in 5 London areas provide personal advice, and all our partners are readily available in person and by phone at times that suit you. Give BBK a call today, 0208 216 2520 or visit our website bbkca.com.
Let me tell you about Jermyn Street Theatre. This is a secret theatre in the heart of the West End, once found, never forgotten. This is where careers ignite, where great actors perform just feet away from the audience. This is where magic happens. We would love you to join our mailing list or become a sponsor or just buy a ticket to one of our shows. The website is www.jermynstreettheatre.co.uk.
This is Men's Radio Station. You're listening to Psych Chat with me, Dennis Relojo-Howell. And for those of you who might not be familiar with what I do, I actually run a website called Psych Reg. So it's all about psychology, mental health, and well-being. So just go to my website, psychreg.org. And I'm also on social media. I'm quite active on Twitter, and I'm also on YouTube. I'm pretty much doing the same thing, talking to people about all things psychology, mental health, and well-being. Now, joining me today again is Clare Stead. She's the founder of a website called, it is a website. Founder of a company, an app called Oliiki. Now, Claire, before the break, you actually already mentioned to us what is Oliiki, but just remind us again. It's a lovely word. So, what does it mean? And in a nutshell, what is this app for?
So Oliiki means nothing except if you take one eye out, it means olive in Estonian. If you put two eyes in, you get the .com, and it looks cute. And I wanted a company that had a logo that was also the name. So Oliiki is my logo as well as my name, and it doesn't mean anything, but hopefully it will begin to mean, as people find it, great learning from the start. And this is the first app that we're starting with. This is the app of the first 1,000 days of life. So that's from conception right the way up to your baby's 2. And it's an app for parents to help parents find the learning in everyday play that they are doing. So the simple play, it gives you a simple play activity to do each day from conception right the way up to the time that your baby's 2. And it tells you what to do, how to do it, but most importantly, why what you're doing is so important for your baby's life outcome, and then the science behind it. Because the science of the first 1,000 days is staggering, and the learning that your baby is happening for your baby in those first 1,000 days is the most amazing amount of, it's a massive window of opportunity, and it's the most amazing amount of learning that's taking place. And parents are their children's first teachers, and the language that the children communicate in is play. So the way that we play with our children, the interactions we have, if they are meaningful, and the experiences we give our babies, if they are positive, they are setting our baby up to be able to arrive at school and thrive. And what we want our babies to do is grow up and have strong trajectory for life. And that first 1,000 days is where it's all happening. And obviously later on in life, you can make changes and improve things. But obviously if we start out effectively, we get better life outcomes. It's easier to start successfully than have to correct things later on. So the interactions that parents have are really, really important with our babies, and they start before birth.
Mm-hmm. And just talk us through more about the app. Now, it sounds really like for millennial parents, but I suppose it's for everyone who can actually use an app. So when they download the app, I suppose it's available on Android and iPhone.
Yes.
So when they download the app, what sort of thing do they actually see?
So
try to visualize it for us.
Yes. Yeah. So it is a simple app. It's very simple, and that's part of its charm, I suppose. Mm-hmm. It's not trying to be anything other than what it is, which is basically an activity a day, every day for 1,000 days that help you put education at the center of your parenting. So you can parent whichever way you want to parent, but it is just giving you a chance to think about how what you're doing with your baby is helping them learn, and helping you understand the impact that something like singing Twinkle Twinkle or 3 Blind Mice is having on your baby. So very simple activities. Mm-hmm. So if we take something like 3 Blind Mice, the app would say to you, sing 3 Blind Mice today. The reason you're singing 3 Blind Mice is because you're helping your baby understand the threeness of 3. which is called conservation of number. Conservation of number is really important when you get to school, and the reason it's really important is because if you understand the threeness of three, so that three will always be 3 items, and that when you count to 3, the first number is the beginning of the counting sequence and the last number is the number of items in that group, and that is the name and number in that group. All of this needs to be learnt. And then if you go to a certain shop and you maybe buy an apple and you count the apples and you count 3 apples, and then you go to the ducks and you count 3 ducks, you're doing the same thing. You're getting that conservation of number, that real grounding and understanding of the threeness of 3, that 3 always has 3 items in it, but it might look differently. So 3 ducks look different to 3 apples, which look different to 3 mice. But when you get to school, if I really, really, really understand that 3 is this many things, when I come to add up, I have a good, solid understanding of my numbers. And so therefore, I can do my addition and subtraction much more confidently than is somebody who knows how to count to 100 but doesn't understand the amount that is in each of those numbers. They don't really have that solid grounding. So what Oliiki is trying to do is help parents understand that singing 3 Blind Mice is not just singing 3 Blind Mice. It's so much more than that. And so you have the activity that's described to you, the learning that you are bringing for your baby, how to do it, and then the science behind it, and why what you're doing is so important for your baby, and then the area of the brain that learning that you've developed by doing it.
This sounds really like an interesting, useful app, especially for parents who don't know how they should educate their child and how to look after them. But more importantly, I suppose people would be asking, is this a free app?
It is free initially, and then it's a paid-for app, and it's less than a coffee a month for the app. So it's £2 a month, which is
not bad.
Really quite.
Now, you said that you actually have prepared a series of activities for the first 1,000 days of a baby's life. Where did these activities come from? What prompted you to develop this series of activities? Is this research or mainly from your experience as a mom?
So I looked at the initial research that came out of Harvard, the Centre on the Developing Child, that looks at they are very clever people who have taken very clever brain science and made it manageable for the normal brain to understand. And in understanding that science, I realised that we needed to do something for this period of time. Then what I did was, because I'm a teacher, we always work on building on the last activity. So each activity builds on another activity. So you develop over time the skills that are needed to be able to reach school and thrive. So I use my teaching skills to develop the activities, but also my mum knowledge, and then obviously the research that's out there as well. So when you find out about the need for language development early on, obviously you need to put lots of language activities in there to be able to engage people in using language with a purpose, so that they're helping their babies to develop the language. Because one of the things that we have a problem with in the UK is our biggest special needs at the moment in schools is children with underdeveloped language. So we need to be able to make sure that our children arrive at school with the language skills necessary to be able to access the curriculum. Because obviously, if you aren't able to communicate effectively when you start school, you start from a back foot.
Now, I just want to explore more about this app. So is it actually for the parent, the mother or the father, or the baby has to see it as well? How does it work?
No, it's very much for the parent.
It's very much for
for the parent to read. Maybe they're doing they're feeding the baby, or maybe they're sat having a cuddle. They read the activity, and then they put the phone down. like put it away and get down on the floor with your baby and play. Interact with the baby. Take the dummy out of their mouth so that they can talk to you, and turn the television off so there's no distractions, and really get down and play with your baby. Or it's maybe an activity to go outside and do something with your baby. And it's helping parents alleviate the boredom of the first 1,000 days that can be quite tedious, but also it's very easy to fall into a trap of always doing the same sorts of things, and it's nice to have little activities that you can do each day that might be different.
Now, I just want to wear a cynic hat. So some parents might be thinking, am I not overwhelming my child for the first 1,000 days, like different activities, the different sets of activities every day for the first 1,000 days? Isn't that a bit overwhelming?
Not really, because one activity might be reading a book. But
Okay.
when you're reading the book, this time you're going to be looking for shapes. You're going to be looking for squares, or you're going to be looking for red things, or you're going to be... And what you're focused on as a parent is the language of those red things, and making sure that you really focus your baby's attention, and knowing as a parent that what you're doing at that point is because you're focused on red, you're going to share that with your baby, and then today when you're out and about, you're going to look for red, and so you're purposefully interacting and teaching in your daily interactions. So it's not really putting more on; it's just giving you a focus and a variety.
Okay, I think that's the key word, variety. Now, when did you start Oliiki?
Oliiki, we started writing Oliiki in 2018.
2008, so it's quite, it's really a startup company
Yes,
now.
very much.
I understand when you're trying to develop a brand, there's a lot of struggles, there's a lot of challenges. So could you just mention what's the biggest challenges in trying to introduce a brand, in trying to introduce an app?
Oh, getting known, getting out there, getting people to know that you're in existence. And actually, whenever people find out about it, they say, "Oh goodness, I wish I'd known about this before," because it's so useful. And people are really, the feedback I'm getting from parents is that it's giving them so much more confidence as a parent, in the way that they parent, because it's giving them things to do, simple things to do every day, that they can do from home with things around the house.
But I'm glad you actually came here at Men's Radio Station here in Psych Chat, so we could actually help people be more familiar about these apps, especially if you're a parent and you're trying to educate your child. But we'll keep it here. We've been talking about interesting topics about child development. We'll be back after the break. This is Dennis Relojo-howell.
You're listening to Men's Radio Station, where men really talk.
Do you want to hang out and really know that you've been listened to? Do you want to debrief and have a laugh and not have to fall down the same hole as every other man in front of you? Then why not go to mensgroups.co.uk, download the Men's Groups ground rules, download the Men's Groups check-in round. There are loads of videos, and you can just hit the ground running, growing with other men.
Join me, Carl Simons, for the Business Hour on Saturdays at 9 a.m, where I'll be interviewing some of the UK's most influential leaders to understand how they are tackling the stigma that surrounds mental health at work. That's me, Carl Simons, for the Business Hour at 9 a.m. on Saturdays here on Men's Radio.
Hi, I'm Noel McDermott, licensed psychotherapist and host of Wellbeing Wednesdays. During Wellbeing Wednesdays, I talk about all things psychotherapy and mental well-being, offering practical help and advice on issues around relationships, anxiety, depression, drugs and alcohol, whilst trying to improve your mental health and giving you an interesting stories from our guests. Join the conversation, have your voice heard, or ask for advice from one of my many specialist guests. We can try and advise you on your problems. Be part of the conversation. Come and join us every Wednesday from 9 to 10:30 p.m. on Men's Radio Station, where men really talk.
Let me tell you about Jermyn Street Theatre. This is a secret theatre in the heart of the West End, once found, never forgotten. This is where careers ignite, where great actors perform just feet away from the audience. This is where magic happens. We would love you to join our mailing list, or become a sponsor, or just buy a ticket to one of our shows. The website is www.jermynstreettheatre.co.uk.
You're listening to Men's Radio Station, the only radio station that's 100% dedicated to mental health and well-being. We're on air and broadcasting 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. In fact, we never sleep. If you want to listen on the move, please download our app. It's easy to do. www.mensradiostation.com is the website, or follow us on social media. Men's Radio Station, where men really talk.
Hello and welcome to Psych Chat here at Men's Radio Station. I'm Dennis Relojo-howell, founder of Psych Chat. I love talking to people and learning about their stories. So in each episode of Psych Chat, I'll be talking to fascinating people within psychology, mental health, and well-being. Join me here at Men's Radio Station every week and let's have a Psych Chat. This is Men's Radio Station and you're listening to Psych Chat with me, Dennis Relojo-howell. I'm so passionate about psychology, mental health, and well-being. That's why I've created a website, and more recently I just published a book. It's called Let's Talk About Behavior. It's a collection of essays on that topic. So it's available on Amazon's and all good bookshops. Now, joining me today again is Clare Stead, who's the founder of Oliiki, and she's a child development expert. And just before the break, we've been talking about her challenges, launching a brand and setting up an app. Now, of course, it's not all about, the struggles and the challenges, but it's also about, what have you actually achieved? So, Claire, tell us about what's your win, in launching your brand.
My biggest win is finding out quite what I had created. I thought I had created a school readiness app. What I actually created is an app that makes parents feel much more confident about what they're doing and how to bring up their children. And when you look at the research on parental confidence, it's really, really important because if you have high parental confidence, you have low chances of postnatal depression, both for men and women. You have low mental health issues for children. You have better life outcomes for children. So having a confident parent is actually a huge, huge win.
Mm-hmm. Now, for those who actually want to, visualize more about your app, is it actually a YouTube video or is it like a quick demonstration on your website?
There will be.
There will be, yeah. So I gave you
no,
an
there
idea.
is actually a YouTube. There are YouTube videos, but I'm not convinced I've got it right yet. I still, in fact, I'd love people's feedback on those. There is an Oliiki YouTube channel, and it would be really interesting to get people's feedback and see whether I've got it right. But I don't think I have.
I'm not a parent, but I'd love to see how it works, and I'll give you a feedback.
Thank you.
And just tell us a bit more about the sort of activities that people can get from Oliiki. How long are the activities and what sort of topics are actually covered by the app?
Okay, so each activity is open-ended. It can take no more than 10 minutes a day, or if you want to be led by your child, they might take up to 40 minutes. You may get really absorbed in what you're doing with your baby, which is fabulous. So depending on how much time you've got, it's either a really short period of time or you can extend it to be a really positive learning environment for your baby.
Now, this is my question for you because a lot of our listeners, because this is Men's Radio Station, so you would expect a lot of our listeners are actually men. So it's quite interesting because when we talk about parenting, we tend to link it with mothers, but actually that's not the case. They're stay-at-home dad. So what can you convey to men when it comes to being a father and spending time with your children?
Well, being a dad is actually a seriously important job, and I think historically it's been a bit of a challenge for men to get deeply involved in parenting, but I think that's all changing now, and I think that's really exciting. And actually some research that came out of a joint team from Imperial College, King's and Oxford found that they looked at dads who were interacting with their 3-month-old babies, and they then came back and looked at the baby's cognitive development, their brain capabilities when they were 2, and they found that dads who were more actively and more engaged in their babies at 3 months old, their babies had higher cognitive outcomes. So dads, basically, in the words of Paul Ramdanchani, who's the professor who led that research, get stuck in. Get busy with your babies because you are seriously important. And the other thing that's worth mentioning at this point is that postnatal depression for men, I suspect it's probably got a real name, but I don't know what that is off the top of my head. Is a real thing. And I think recognizing it and talking about it is really important. And one of the real challenges is the lack of paternal leave, and that your whole world changes, in a different way to women, but you get 2 weeks off, you get to know your baby in 2 weeks, and then bam, you're back to work, and it's as if nothing happened, and you need to be as productive as you were before. I think if we start as a society talking about it more, I think it's a really important thing for men to be aware that, you matter a lot. And also, a lot of the feedback I've had about the Oliiki app is that men really like it because it's almost like a textbook. It's kind of like, do this, and you're doing it because of this reason. And that's, men quite like the fact that actually now they can become an authority because of the science. They can read the science that's there and then start telling their wife or their partner some information about child development, which is quite nice as well, because then, you feel a lot more confident about what you're doing. And it's that confidence that's going to breed success for you and make you feel really empowered in your fathering, which is such an important role.
So there you go. You've had it straight from Claire. So it is not just for mom, but it's also for dads who's wanting to spend more quality time with the first 1,000 days of the child. I just want to understand the kind of work that you do, because you develop an app. And you said earlier that you're actually a researcher. So who do you actually work with? Do you work with just parents?
Not now. Now I work only on the Oliiki app. But before I went to Zambia, I was an education researcher, and we were working with the top 5% of schools in England and Wales looking for best practice. And at the time, we were very focused on helping the brightest children achieve more. Actually, what we found with our research was that the children who were impacted most were actually the children that I'm now trying to help. Those ones who were falling through the gaps for no real reason, arriving and not being quite ready. We found that by implementing the best practice for them, we could help them feel more confident, more empowered, more successful. And with that, success breeds success, and children would come out and start really thriving in school. But also when I was working in education research, I was working with governments around the world, Malta, UK government and Australian government, and also companies and British Council, various companies building what then didn't have a name, but it turns out to be e-learning content. But it was 2 years before I had a name for what I did. I was doing IT in education, and then eventually they said, no, I think actually you do e-learning. So this was in 2004 and 5 that I was working as an IT in education specialist. And 2006 I graduated to be this e-learning specialist because now it was a thing in the world. But at that point I was developing the online e-learning content for governments and for companies. But also we were developing quite cross-cutting cultural content where we were looking at learning in 3 countries, in 3 languages, in primary, and bringing the children together on a video conference, which in those days was really quite cutting edge and hadn't really been done. And we won awards for our work for being quite cutting edge at that point. And getting the children to do one topic in 3 countries, in 3 languages, and then share their learning on video link up was quite exciting.
This is really a useful app. So when you mentioned to me that you actually won an award for doing this, I'm not really surprised. So just tell us a bit more about the awards that you've won.
So for Oliiki, I won an award last year, the first one we went for actually. The Lord Lieutenant of Hertfordshire set up an enterprise challenge, and there were 10 companies that were shortlisted, and we had to do a 3-minute pitch and 3 days at the county show showing, and I came second for that award, for the Enterprise Award, and I got the People's Choice Award as well. There were only 2 awards given out that day, and I got two of the awards, which was very nice.
Oh, well done.
Thank you very much. But for my other work, putting the primary education on a tablet that I'd done before, we got a significant number of awards, from a Forbes award to a government award, where we came second to the Kenyan government. They'd done an international. They had put their government into an e-learning context, all their government processes. But we came second to that on that one, and so we gained a lot of awards for that previous award work. And then for my research, I got an award from SILT, who are the Centre of languages, modern languages, which was given to me by Trevor MacDonald, actually, in Holyrood. Yes, so that was very exciting.
I'm
a
not
trip up to Scotland.
Oh, cool. I'm not really surprised that you have amassed these lots of awards, and considering that you've only just launched this about 2 years ago, this is really spectacular. Yeah.
We launched actually last February.
Last February. This is really amazing. Now, I just want to explore more, because a big component of Oliiki, I suppose, is tied down to reading. Earlier you mentioned about, the conservation of numbers. Could you just talk to us through, in about 2 minutes, what's the importance of reading for the first 1,000 days? You're
setting the foundations of language and love of books and learning. So reading has got so many benefits to it. When you read as a parent with your child, you tend to snuggle your child in, so it's a very cozy time. It's a very close time. It's time for you to calm down. When you calm down, the calmness passes on to your baby, so your baby calms down, and you're sharing images, you're sharing communication, you're modelling language with them, you are modelling sentence structure. There are so many benefits, but you're also teaching them how a book works, which side of the book to open, how a page turns, and the fact that they will find information in a book, which is obviously massively important for later life learning.
Yeah, we can't emphasize more the importance of reading at an early age, because it's really a useful skill that you could actually carry on during your adulthood. Now, we'll talk more about that, about reading and about child development, when we come back after the break. This is, of course, Psych Chat, where I talk to interesting people within psychology, mental health, and well-being. Stay tuned, and we'll be back after the break.
Do you want to hang out and really know that you've been listened to? Do you want to debrief and have a laugh and not have to fall down the same hole as every other man in front of you? Then why not go to mensgroups.co.uk, download the Men's Groups ground rules, download the Men's Groups check-in round. There are loads of videos, and you can just hit the ground running, growing with other men.
Join me, Carl Simons, for the Business Hour on Saturdays at 9 a.m, where I'll be interviewing some of the UK's most influential leaders to understand how they are tackling the stigma that surrounds mental health at work. That's me, Carl Simons, for the Business Hour at 9 a.m. on Saturdays here on Men's Radio.
Hi, I'm Noel McDermott, licensed psychotherapist and host of Wellbeing Wednesdays. During Wellbeing Wednesdays, I talk about all things psychotherapy and mental well-being, offering practical help and advice on issues around relationships, anxiety, depression, drugs and alcohol, whilst trying to improve your mental health and giving you an interesting stories from our guests. Join the conversation, have your voice heard, or ask for advice from one of my many specialist guests. We can try and advise you on your problems. Be part of the conversation. Come and join us every Wednesday from 9 to 10:30 p.m. on Men's Radio Station, where men really talk.
You're listening to Men's Radio Station, the only radio station that's 100% dedicated to mental health and well-being. We're on air and broadcasting 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. In fact, we never sleep. If you want to listen on the move, please download our app. It's easy to do. www.mensradiostation.com is the website, or follow us on social media. Men's Radio Station, where men really talk.
Not ready for making tax digital? Struggling to keep up with changes? Or do you simply need a friendly and reliable face to handle your accounting needs? With over 20 years of experience, BBK Partnership in 5 London areas provide personal advice, and all our partners are readily available in person and by phone at times that suit you. Give BBK a call today, 0208 216 2520, or visit our website bbkca.com.
Let me tell you about Jermyn Street Theatre. This is a secret theatre in the heart of the West End, once found, never forgotten. This is where careers ignite, where great actors perform just feet away from the audience. This is where magic happens. We would love you to join our mailing list, or become a sponsor, or just buy a ticket to one of our shows. The website is www.jermynstreettheatre.co.uk.
Welcome back to Psych Chat here at Men's Radio Station. This is Dennis Relojo-howell. We're already on the last segment of our episode today, where we're talking about child development and, of course, how you can actually support the first 1,000 days of being a parent to your newly born child. Now, I just want to remind you that if you actually missed the first part of this episode, you can always catch it on SoundCloud. And of course, it will also be uploaded on a website that's mensradiostation.com. Now, again, I have here is Clare Stead, who's the founder of Oliiki and the creator of the app. Now, Claire, could you just to talk us through what can we actually learn more about your website and about the app, and are you also on social media?
Thank you. So Oliiki is we're on the web at oliiki.com, hence the name, because then I could get the .com, So oliiki.com, you'll find our website, and we are also on Facebook, where I would absolutely love you to come and join us on our Facebook page and start asking questions. Tell me what you want to hear more about, because I'm looking to do more lives, have more communication with people. So come and join me, come and have a chat. I'd love to know what your challenges are, what you're interested in, especially if you're pregnant, or your wife's pregnant, or you've just had a new baby, or you've got a baby under 2. And then we're also on Instagram and LinkedIn. I'm very active on LinkedIn, and then the other place where I'm learning to be more active is Twitter, where we are Oliiki_learning. So on the other social media, it's just Oliiki.
Okay, cool. Now, Claire, earlier we were talking about reading earlier. Now, let's just explore more on that. When you actually read with your baby, they just barely came out of the words. So can they actually even see the book?
If you hold, babies are really clever. At your baby, when they're newly born, can see the same distance as if you cradle them in your arm as if you were feeding them on the breast. So that's their best distance. It's about 20 to 30 centimetres away. And so if you hold the book, if you cuddle your baby and you hold the book at a comfortable arm's distance away, your baby's got most chance to see the book. Initially, the only book you need is one you can make yourself, and that's a black and white book. And you can do simple black and white designs. Get a black felt tip, white paper, and draw bold, clear designs, maybe a circle with 2 eyes and a smile, or some zigzag lines. Your baby will find it utterly fascinating. Maybe some circles, maybe some squares. Don't make it too complicated. Just give them black on white to look at. And that enables them to get their eyes to be able to adjust directly to the page they're learning. They're strengthening their muscles in their eyes.
And when should you start doing this?
Oh, my baby started on day 1. They were born on day 1. I started reading them stories.
Okay. And you mentioned earlier that you're a mum of 3.
Yeah.
And so you did all of this to them.
Yeah, I did. I took a book in my bag when I went to hospital to give birth. In fact, it's a really nice thing for dads to do at the beginning when they're first holding their baby. Start reading them stories. It's such a cozy thing to do. Your baby will love it. They get to hear your voice. They get to snuggle in with you. They smell you. You smell them. It's incredibly endorphin releasing experience.
And how long should you read to your baby?
as long as the baby is wanting to be read to. And you will know, because they will start fussing, they will turn away, they will just lose interest, in which case stop. But it won't be very long initially, and because it's hard work. They're learning so much stuff. But obviously as they get older, it's something that you can spend more time doing at each period of time, and it's something you can do throughout the day. You could have, when I had my little ones, I used to stop, say, 3 times a day in the daytime to read with them. So maybe in the morning I would read with them at like morning tea time when we're having a cup of coffee and a sit down. Often over lunch I would read to my children, and then a quiet period in the afternoon we would have a story, and then of course at bedtime always a story.
Now, we've been talking about child development, the benefits of reading, and of course, your app, so, parents can effectively look after their children. Now, based from your experience, and you've done loads of research, can you give us some, myths about child development? Because I think this is also important to, to explore.
Yes, I think one of the myths is that babies can't really understand anything in the beginning, and it's all a bit pointless, and you just need to just let them be, and then they will eventually pick it all up.
That's also my assumption, they're just newly born, they just came out of the world, so perhaps all they could do is just sleep and do something to change the napping.
But actually it's the most crucial period of time in their brain development, so the more that you can do in this period of time, the more that your baby will be able to develop. And actually the staggering learning that I did when I was doing this app, for example, at 10 months old your baby is taking statistical analysis of language that they hear, because they're born as a baby of the world. They're born able to speak any language that they are interacting with. But at about 10 to 12 months they start casting off vowels that they're not going to need. Utterly fascinating stuff. So what happens is we talk to our babies in a way that's called motherese, and that is that baby chat. The hello baby, how are you? Which
we also do that to dogs as well.
Indeed we do. But I wonder if it's the same reason. Because the reason we do it is we're slowing down the vowels in the words, which means the baby can use that slowed down vowel to be able to choose the vowels that they are hearing in their language, and then they discard the ones they don't hear, so that they become a specialist in their language that they are learning at that time.
They're actually quite good with that when it comes to that skill, like recognizing vowels, because actually when that's the key ingredient for you to develop an accent. That's why, when you move to another country and you're trying to, integrate to that, and you're trying to learn the language, you can't really adapt an accent because you've lost that ability. That it's instinctual, that vowel thing. Now I just want to hear some recommendations from you about sources when it comes to child development. I suppose you mentioned earlier you've got a fabulous sources that you upload on your Facebook, but what other websites can we get hold of?
I would definitely recommend people look at the Centre on the Developing Child in Harvard, but the other one is the Peddle Institute in Cambridge, which is looking at research into play. They're working with the Lego Foundation, who are also fascinated by play. So those are 3 really interesting websites if you want to know more about the earliest of days. And then the other ones, Oxford Brookes have some really interesting information as well about language and the research that's happening for babies, of children as well.
So I think basically most of the universities in the UK and the US...
Definitely, but some universities are more active in this area than others.
I see. Now, what would be your most important advice to people, who want to pursue a career in career in early education? Not just for parents, but, someone who wants to be a preschool teacher. What would be your key advice?
I think get lots of experience of being with children, because I think when we start out, it's very easy to get scooped up into being overexcited, all gets a bit silly, slightly out of control, or we go the other way and we sort of don't really engage. So I think get lots and lots of experience about being around children before you become responsible for a class or a group of children.
And I think it's important that you are patient, even though you're doing these activities through the app, and you will see like gradual development, gradual changes. You have to be patient. You don't expect a full-on result straight away.
Absolutely. And I think the other thing to remember is that babies are learning. They're learning every day. So where you think something is very obvious, maybe they haven't actually learnt it yet. Or maybe this is the very first time they've ever seen something. So if you pick up a berry, maybe you go for a walk with a toddler and you go at their pace, and every single thing they find is fascinating. Now that's quite annoying because you don't really get very far. But if you think about it from the toddler's point of view, that's fascinating because they're seeing that gravel for the very first time, or a berry, and they're really examining a berry for the first time. That's amazing. And then when you realise that that berry, as you examine it, has differences. So maybe it's got a stalk coming out one end, and that focus where you look at that is actually the beginning of focusing for reading and writing.
Now, Claire, we're nearing towards the end of the show, but I just want to learn what's the most important thing that you want people to learn about your work, about child development, and about Oliiki. What's the most important thing?
If you use Oliiki, you become a confident parent. If you become a confident parent, you give your child the best outcome for life. You have all the skills there necessary, but what you're going to get for Oliiki is a whole heap of different activities to do and confidence that you're doing the right thing at the right time.
And again, this is not just for mothers, but this is also for fathers.
Most definitely. And dads, you are important.
And remind us again, where can we learn more about Oliiki and your line of work?
www.oliiki.com.
And you're also on social media?
Indeed, Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn and a little bit on Twitter.
So we've got a fascinating discussions about child development and about Oliiki, and also we try to emphasize that when we when we're looking after our children, it's not just for moms, but it's also for dads. Now again, if you missed the start of this show, you can always catch it again on SoundCloud, and you can also listen on our website. That's www.mensradiostation.com. And of course, you can visit Clare Stead website. That's oliiki.com. It's a very short and sweet name that you could remember. And she's also on Facebook. That's it for me. It's been a pleasure talking to you, Claire. Do join us again next week. Bye for now.
You're listening to Men's Radio Station, where men really talk.
Do you want to hang out and really know that you've been listened to? Do you want to debrief and have a laugh and not have to fall down the same hole as every other man in front of you? Then why not go to mensgroups.co.uk, download the Men's Groups ground rules, download the Men's Groups check-in round. There are loads of videos and you can just hit the ground running, growing with other men.
Join me, Carl Simons, for the Business Hour on Saturdays at 9 a.m, where I'll be interviewing some of the UK's most influential leaders to understand how they are tackling the stigma that surrounds mental health at work. That's me, Carl Simons, for the Business Hour at 9 a.m. on Saturdays here on Men's Radio.
Hi, I'm Noel McDermott, licensed psychotherapist and host of Wellbeing Wednesdays. During Wellbeing Wednesdays, I talk about all things psychotherapy and mental well-being, offering practical help and advice on issues around relationships, anxiety, depression, drugs and alcohol, whilst trying to improve your mental health and giving you an interesting stories from our guests. Join the conversation, have your voice heard, or ask for advice from one of my many specialist guests. We can try and advise you on your problems. Be part of the conversation. Come and join us every Wednesday from 9 to 10:30 p.m on Men's Radio Station, where men really talk.
Let me tell you about Jermyn Street Theatre. This is a secret theatre in the heart of the West End, once found, never forgotten. This is where careers ignite, where great actors perform just feet away from the audience. This is where magic happens. We would love you to join our mailing list or become a sponsor or just buy a ticket to one of our shows. The website is www.jermynstreettheatre.co.uk.
You're listening to Men's Radio Station, the only radio station that's 100% dedicated to mental health and well-being. We're on air and broadcasting 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. In fact, we never sleep. If you want to listen on the move, please download our app. It's easy to do. www.mensradiostation.com is the website, or follow us on social media. Men's Radio Station, where men really talk.
Hello and welcome to Psych Chat here at Men's Radio Station. I'm Dennis Relojo-howell, founder of Psych I love talking to people and learning about their stories. So in each episode of Psych Chat, I'll be talking to fascinating people within psychology, mental health, and well-being. Join me here at Men's Radio Station every week and let's have a Psych Chat.